When the developers of Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition unleashed the Swedish civilization upon the community, they were of the opinion that all we would need to know about the unique house is that it supports 10 population and gathers nearby resources. Thank you, that's definitely helpful, but I think we need more information than that. So I've done the digging myself. Please sit back and enjoy the following guide. Instead of doing a detailed overview of each individual gather rate, what I'm going to do is just leave the screenshot here on your screens for a couple more seconds. There's also a table down below in the description. Now we're going to move on to the good part. The Torp itself is able to gather from berry bushes, from trees, from coin mines, from huntables, from livestock, and from crates. The first thing you're going to notice about your Torp is that there's a little blue ring around the outside of the building. This really doesn't give you much information, but we're going to use it as a general guide. When you're placing your Torp, there's a number of factors that you should take into account before you hit that button. Ideally, you should be looking for a coin mine that's nearby and making sure that your Torp is as close as possible as it can be to that coin mine. The next thing on your priority list is looking for a hunt that's nearby. Ideally, if you can find a coin mine that's got a hunt right on top of it, that's going to be perfect. Otherwise, it's best that you herd some animals in the direction of your Torp. For the majority of the early game, you want to be ignoring trees with the Torp. The gather rate for trees and the Torp is incredibly low. It's not something that can be improved upon, and to be quite frank, it's negligible. In the event you find a sheep or a cow or a llama with your explorer, send it back towards your Torp. When the livestock arrives, delete it. Your Torp will automatically start gathering from the livestock that was just killed, in addition to the berry bush that it's gathering from, and in addition to the huntable that you shot towards it. You'll be able to tell if the Torp is gathering from something because you'll see a colourful ring around the outside or on the inside of the respective unit. That's my basic guide for the Torp. Now we move on to the question and answer component of the video. This is a question that I've got from a user by the name of I Am Grunt. He says, what's the highest yielding Torp you can achieve on a regular basis? So if you send both the Age 1 Blueberries card with the Age 2 Anglesberg Ironworks card, you're guaranteed to have Torps that yield a minimum of 2.3 villages. If you can manage to have a herd nearby, you can raise that from 2.3 up to 2.8 villages. So it's around 2.3 to 2.8. So the next question has come in from Nature Phoenix, and he has asked, what if you don't decide to send those cards? That's a good question. So by not sending blueberries, your Torps will gather food for 10 minutes before the bush runs out of food. Not to mention that the bush that it's actually collecting from collects at half the rate that the blueberries do. So that means that once you've managed to build the 19 houses, because obviously the first one doesn't have blueberries because, you got to build it at 30 seconds, you'll be looking at about a difference of 380 food a minute. So blueberries works out to be 760 food a minute, and that lasts for 15 minutes. Whereas without blueberries, you're only going to be getting 380 food, and that's for 10 minutes. So 760 food a minute is the equivalent of 15 villages on hunts, lasting for 15 minutes. That's obviously opposed to 7.5 villages on hunts for only 10 minutes. And Nature Phoenix has asked a follow-up question. He said, and what about ironworks? So ironworks, it increases the gather rate significantly of the coin generation for the Torp. So once it's been shipped and all the Torps are out in the field mining gold, they are mining at the equivalent rate of 30 villages. So without sending that card, your Torps will be mining at the rate of 10 villages. So just obviously with that, keep in mind that the faster you're gathering a resource, the faster you're going to exhaust that resource. If you've got a mine that's got 4 Torps on it, that means it's going to be gone in 10 minutes. Yep. Okay, and Sorry, we've just got an interruption. So who is this from? Okay, so this is from the Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition balance team. And they're asked, so with 2 cards sent, 20 Torps comes out to the equivalent of 45 villagers. Yes, that is correct. So not including any hunts that you herd to them, any sheep that you delete near them, any trees that happen to be nearby, any crates that you have delivered to them. They are 45 villagers. All yours. You have another question? Okay, what's your question? Okay, so the question is, Torps can have crates delivered to them? Yes, from the balance team, I know that you guys didn't put together a whole lot in regard to information for us. I thought you probably would have done a little bit better for yourself. But yes, Torps can have crates delivered to them. So there's an Age 2 card called Dominion. It allows Torps to receive home city shipments. It also allows them to gather crates. It ships 4 Torp wagons and increases the health of Torps by 30%. It's honestly a really good card to have in your deck. That's one that I often send very early. Okay, next question, please. Yep, you in the front row with the green little hat. What's your name, mate? Braden. Okay. What's your question, son? Blackberries. Okay, yes. What about blackberries? While it might seem on the surface to be a good card, blackberries isn't actually a good card. It provides you with 1,000 food for each of your Torps to gather. It gathers at half the rate of blueberries. After you send blackberries, it would take your Torps 50 minutes to exhaust the blackberries. Now, obviously, this is just in the vacuum where the Torp exists. If you're, turtling and you're like, you know what, 20,000 food sounds pretty good to me right now, I think I might send blackberries, then by all means, go for it. It's just probably not something I've really thought too much about yet. Sorry? Yep. Okay. What about when the blueberries run out? Okay, so when the blueberries run out, what you're just going to do, you're just going to delete the Torp, reposition it under more resources. So it might be like a new gold mine, or there's a cluster of trees somewhere. The new Torp will always spawn another upgraded blueberry bush. I know it seems rudimentary, but I promise you, it works very well. Okay, I'm happy to take one last question. It's been a busy day. Yep. Okay, yep. What's your question? Should I be keeping Great Northern Forests in my deck? Okay, so the gather rate for Torps on trees is very low, with 10 trees equivalent to 1 unupgraded villager. The majority of your Torps are going to be placed around coin mines, which means that being near trees, it's going to be pretty uncommon. The fact that it ships 20 trees with it sounds like, a pretty good deal, but in reality, it's the equivalent of 2 unupgraded villagers. Even if by shipping the card, you somehow manage to have 70 or 80 trees that were now being harvested, you've got a unit cap, a villager cap of 99. You can ship 2 factories. You've then got 20 Torps that are working overtime equivalent to 45 villagers. I think it really starts to be put into perspective when you look at it in that way, because you're getting... It's essentially 5 upgraded vills on wood for an Age 4 card. In my mind, it's just not worth it. I can only advise against including this card in your deck. Alright guys, that's all the questions I've got time for today. If you've got any further questions, feel free to leave a comment down below asking what your question is. I'll see if I can sort it out. What is it, Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition balance team? You've got a question? Okay. Look, mate, I said the show's over. We're not taking any more questions. I don't like to be interrupted. Okay. All right. No, okay. What's your question, mate? Your question is, how do Torps work? Didn't we cover that at the beginning? Oh, you want me to go more in depth? Okay. Yeah, look, I understand. That's not a problem. I'm happy to do that for you, but I'm going to take it nice and slow, though, just so that you get everything down, all right? All right, grab your pen. A Torp can gather from carcasses up to 3 times the radius of the blue circle. A Torp can only gather from 1 huntable carcass at a time. A Torp can only gather from 1 livestock carcass at a time. A Torp can gather from both a single huntable and a single livestock at the same time. The Torp cannot gather from two different types of huntables or two different types of livestock at the same time. Multiple Torps can gather from the same carcass at the same time. A Torp can gather from multiple trees at the same time. Multiple Torps can gather from the same tree at the same time. An unupgraded Torp can gather from any tree up to 1.25 times the radius of the blue circle away from it. An upgraded Torp can gather from any tree up to 3 times the radius of the blue circle. A Torp can only gather from 1 silver, 1 copper, or 1 gold mine at a time. Multiple Torps can gather from the same source of coin. A Torp upgraded with Dominion can gather from any number of crates at the same time. A Torp can gather any crate up to 3 times the radius of the blue circle away. A Torp cannot consume a fermenting surströmming. A Torp can consume a surströmming once it has been activated by a settler. Alright guys, that's the end of the advanced part. Look, if you've genuinely made it to the end of the video, thank you very much for watching it. I tried something a little bit different in this video. I'm not sure whether you guys are going to like it, so leave a comment down below if you didn't like it, and I'll make sure I steer clear of it in the future. I thought it would be an interesting way to deliver the information. Other than that, I just wanted to say that the interviews obviously weren't real, except for the Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition team. They wouldn't stop bloody interrupting me. Fortunately, they've heeded our advice. They've dropped down the gather rates on the Torp, and the rates that are listed in this video, it's my understanding, won't be the ones that will be going into the release edition. So when we've got updated rates for the release edition, I'll make sure to update this video as soon as I can. Alright, other than that, I hope you enjoyed.
You call that a knife? This is a knife.
That's not a knife, that's a spoon.
All right, you win. I see you've played knifey spoony before.